I'm haphephobic, yet I want him to touch me everywhere. Being afraid of touch doesn't make you any less human. You've gone through something no boy your age should ever have to go through, and it will take time to heal. I need you to stop telling yourself you're broken, because you're not. Those were the words my therapist said to me years ago after my mother found me in bed with her sister when I was 12. I stopped seeing the therapist after I turned 18. It didn't feel like his sessions were working, and I didn't feel like I should be fixed. Life has been nothing but challenging since then. I developed a fear and hatred for physical touch. Medically, I was diagnosed with haphephobia, the fear of being touched. I'm 32 now, and I still had to deal with this. It made working with people hard, but my coworkers were very kind and understanding about my phobia. They took no offense whenever I refused to hang out after work. All in all, they left me to myself half the time, and my relationship with them was amicable. Being an online customer service rep limited my human interactions immensely, and I was safe here in this bubble that I created for myself. Or so I thought. You see, today marked the beginning of a series of events that would rock my world off its axis, and it all began with the arrival of a new coworker. "Luke! Luke!" Peter's booming voice echoed down the hallway. I barely had time to look up before my boss rounded the corner, heading straight for my desk. "Ah, there you are, at your table, fast at work as always. That's why I've got a new charge for you," he announced with a broad grin. Behind him was a man I'd never seen before, tall with an easy smile that made me feel uncomfortably seen. "A new charge, sir?" I asked, my eyebrows knitting together. "Yes, Alan here just started with us," Peter said, clapping the stranger on the shoulder. "I was showing him around." Peter was always kind like that, treating everyone at the office like family, but my gut sank as soon as I realized where this was going. "And I want you to train him," Peter added cheerfully. "Help him settle in, show him the ropes. You're the perfect person for the job." My stomach churned. Working closely with someone? No, absolutely not. How the hell was I supposed to get out of this? Sir, I don't think that's a good idea," I said, my voice a little sharper than I intended. Peter laughed, brushing off my objection like it was nothing. "Oh, don't be so modest, Luke. You're one of our best workers. This will be a great opportunity for you." He turned to the stranger. "Alan, introduce yourself." Alan stepped forward, extending his hand. "It's nice to meet you. I'm Alan Hart." I froze, staring at the offered handshake like it was a snake about to bite me. "Oh, right," Peter chimed in, noticing my hesitation. "I forgot to mention, Luke here doesn't do handshakes." Alan's hand hovered for a moment before he withdrew it. "Oh, no problem," he said. Then, before anyone could stop him, he leaned in and hugged me. Hugged me. My mind blanked. "Whoa, Alan, step back, quickly!" Peter's voice was sharp, his concern palpable. Alan released me immediately, his expression twisting into genuine regret. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable, I'm just excited to work with you." I stood there, stiff as a board, my mind reeling. "You okay, son?" Peter asked, peering at me like I was a ticking time bomb. "No harm done, right?" His question was fair. The last time someone had touched me at work, they'd had to call a locksmith after I locked myself in the bathroom for hours. I was honestly surprised I hadn't been fired over it. Somehow I managed to nod. "No harm, sir. I'm fine." Peter watched me carefully for a moment before clapping his hands together. "All right then, I'll show Alan the rest of the office. You two can get started on Monday." "See you then," Alan said, flashing me a smile before Peter led him away. The rest of the day was a blur. I don't even remember how I got back to my apartment. One moment I was sitting at my desk, and the next I was staring at my ceiling, trying to make sense of what had happened. Why didn't I freak out when he hugged me? My body had reacted as if it had forgotten it was supposed to fear touch. Did that mean I was cured? No, definitely not. I still couldn't bring myself to take the train home, opting for a cab instead. Whatever had happened with Alan had to be a fluke. Monday came around and it was time to start work with Alan. Training him was easier than I had thought, and Peter had made him my cubicle buddy, so he was able to ask me questions, and I could answer them as well. Soon enough, he was able to answer customer inquiries on his own. Now, things would be going smoothly if it hadn't been for one single thing. He had no sense of what personal space was. Alan enjoyed touching me. Sometimes he'd hold my arm, other times he'd reach for my hair and tussle it. He also made it a habit of tucking it behind my ear. Literally any contact that could be made casual with a person, he made it. Alan's actions didn't seem to raise any alarms in my body, and I could tell my colleagues were just as confused as I was. This time, maybe I really am healed, so I decided to put it to the test. As the day progressed, Alan and I found ourselves alone in the elevator. We had to deliver some files to Peter. I had the idea of making first contact, just holding his hand, nothing too serious, or so I thought, as I slowly reached for him. But I couldn't do it. The thought of me touching him made my mind sick. I guess this means I'm not cured. I thought in despair, my heart cracked just a little bit. I guess it was stupid of me to think such a thing could happen overnight. Sunday was supposed to be my day of blissful laziness. No plans, no obligations, just me and my couch. But of course, peace was too much to ask. I heard noises from the hallway. Curious, I got up, opened my door, and found myself staring at a wall of boxes stacked outside the apartment opposite mine. New neighbor, I thought, as if on cue the door opened. Alan? I blurted out, my voice laced with surprise. What are you doing here? Luke? Alan grinned, equally surprised. Hey, I didn't know you lived here. I'm moving in today. Guess that makes us neighbors. He bent down to grab two of the boxes, his arms flexing under their weight like some cruel joke the universe was playing on me. Hey, you think you could help me with the other boxes? Panic set in. I would, but there's something I need to do inside. Sorry, I sputtered before slamming the door shut. As soon as the door clicked, I groaned, pressing my forehead against it. Please don't let him think I ran away. I totally ran away. Why did I run away? The guy was everywhere, first at work, now at home. Was I doomed to have Alan invade every aspect of my life? A knock interrupted my internal meltdown. I opened the door to find Alan standing there, holding up a box of donuts. Hey, Luke. Thought I'd do the neighborly thing and bring you this. He offered the box with a sheepish grin. I can't cook to save my life, so this was the best thing I could manage on short notice. I blinked, caught off guard. Oh, thanks, Alan. You didn't have to. I should be the one giving you a welcome to the neighborhood gift, not the other way around. It's nothing, he said with a shrug, and I took the box from him. Before I could retreat, he stuck his foot in the door. So, he began, hesitating just slightly. I was wondering, would you mind if we went to work together tomorrow? You know, carpool or whatever. Only if it's no trouble. My brain screamed, absolutely not, but my mouth betrayed me. He looked so hopeful, so earnest, that I couldn't bring myself to say no. Sure, I said, forcing a smile. See you tomorrow morning. He waved goodnight and I closed the door, leaning back against it. Great. Now I have to survive a commute with him, too. Going to work with Alan turned out to be far better than I anticipated. He was so easygoing, so effortless to talk to, that being around him started to feel natural. There was something magnetic about the way he carried himself, so at peace, like the world couldn't rattle him, and without even realizing it, I found myself drawn into his orbit. Alan made me feel things I hadn't felt in years. He capitalized on our growing proximity, and soon I found myself not only looking forward to our commutes, but also enjoying them. Our new dynamic surprised everyone at work, and me most of all. We'd gone from awkward coworkers to something I could dare to call friendship. Working with him became bearable, even enjoyable, because for some inexplicable reason, I didn't mind it when he touched me. He made me feel safe. I still hated being touched by others, but Alan? He was different somehow, and I couldn't believe it. These interactions did more for me than I ever thought they could, because soon enough, I learned to touch him too. At first, it was small, brushing lint off of his shirt or accidentally brushing hands when passing files. But it grew. I found myself reaching out to hold his arm when talking, or a few days ago, running my fingers through his hair idly as we discussed shampoos. It was soft. Softer than I had imagined. However, it seemed he always wanted more touches, more holds, and there's only so much I could handle. I found myself leaning away any time he lingered too long. I could see it in his eyes. My actions hurt him, but being Alan, he never once brought it up. Being around him reminded me how important touch could be, but it also made me feel other things. These new emotions didn't feel entirely platonic. I didn't know what they were, and honestly, I wasn't sure I was ready to find out. Later that evening, there was a knock at my door. "Alan?" I said, surprised. "Hey, I wasn't expecting you. Come on in." "Yeah, I was wondering if maybe we could hang out. Watch a movie or something." "A movie? With Alan?" Just the thought made me feel warm, happy even. "Sure," I said, stepping aside. "Mi casa es su casa." Alan chuckled as he walked in, setting the box of DVDs on my coffee table. We chose a generic action comedy, something light, something easy, but watching the movie was easier said than done. He was sitting so close to me, closer than usual. My spine tingled and my heart pounded so loud I was surprised he couldn't hear it. "Luke, you okay?" he asked, his voice warm and soft. I turned to him, and suddenly his face was inches from mine. My breath hitched. Before I could second-guess myself, I leaned in and kissed him. His lips were softer than I imagined, softer even than his hair. I was about to pull away, embarrassed by my impulsiveness, when his hand slid to the nape of my neck, pulling me closer. He deepened the kiss, his tongue exploring my mouth, and I met him with equal intensity. His hands roamed over my body, tugging my shirt off with ease. I fumbled to pull his shirt off too, my breath hitching as I took in the sight of his lean, muscular torso. Tentatively, I reached out, my fingers brushing against his warm skin. It was firm, solid, and grounding. He leaned in and kissed me again, his hands sliding lower. The sound of my belt buckle coming undone snapped me out of my haze. "No." The words came out, weak, almost broken. "Please stop." I scrambled to grab my shirt and pull it on, my hands trembling. Confusion clouded his face. "Did I do something wrong?" he asked, his voice thick with worry. "I'm sorry." He reached out to comfort me, but I flinched. The hurt that crossed his face cut deeper than I expected. "I'm so sorry, Luke." He tried reaching out to touch my shoulder, but I flinched hard and he paused midway, the shock on his face deepening. "What's going on?" This was my cue to speak up, tell him how my aunt had traumatized me as a kid, but unsurprisingly, I couldn't find my voice. I kept opening my mouth to speak, but only choked sobs followed. Meanwhile, Alan's shock was hitting new heights as he noticed I began to hyperventilate. He once again tried to reach out, but I beat him to it. I dashed towards the door and silently held it open, and then realization dawned on him. It wasn't quite the message I was trying to pass across, but it was a message, and it did critical damage. "I really thought we had something," Alan said, his voice quiet but steady. "I thought the signs were there. I thought you liked me. I don't know what's going on, but I can't play this hot and cold game, Luke." And then he was gone, the door slamming shut behind him. The room felt colder, like all the warmth had been sucked out. I stumbled to my bedroom, curling up into myself as the tears came, and then the dreams followed. At age 10, life felt simple. I was curious, carefree, and playful. Mum always said my smile was her favorite thing in the world. One ordinary afternoon, she brought someone new into our home. "Luke, meet Angela," she said, smiling warmly. Angela seemed perfect, kind, fun, and generous. She played games with me, bought me candy, and always told me how sweet I was. For months, I thought she was amazing. But Angela started asking for favors. At first, it was innocent enough, help with little things. Then those favors became confusing, leaving me uneasy. But I didn't know how to explain why. She'd always tell me, "This is just our secret." By 12, I knew something was deeply wrong. The boundaries blurred further, but I didn't know who to turn to. I'd seen how these things were brushed off, especially when it happened to boys. Desperate one evening, I locked myself in my room, hoping to escape her, but Angela always found a way. "You can't hide from me, Luke," she said, her voice calm, almost amused. I begged her to stop, but my pleas didn't matter. She didn't care. And then it happened. My mother came home early. She stormed into the room, her voice shaking with fury. "What the hell are you doing?" she screamed, pulling Angela away from me. Angela was arrested that night. I remember the look she gave me as they took her away, a smile that still haunts me. The police barely took it seriously. "Boys are naturally curious," they said dismissively, but my mum didn't let them ignore it. She fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself. Angela was sentenced, but the damage was done. The nightmares came first, then the panic attacks. Even a simple touch would send me spiraling. I pulled away from everyone, even my mum. I felt broken, like the carefree kid I'd once been was gone forever. I jolted awake, the images from my dreams still fresh in my head. It took me a moment to put myself together, and I slowly got up from the bed, checking the time. I saw it was only 6 a.m. I still had time before work. Slowly going through my morning ritual, I made breakfast, ate, showered, and dressed. By the time I was done, it was past 7. I got to the door, took a deep breath, opened it, and went to knock on Alan's door. My plan was to apologize. "Oh, sorry, Luke, but Alan's already left for work," the neighbor from the apartment after mine said. "I did ask him if he would call you, but he said you had other plans." "Oh," I replied. Yeah. I must have forgotten. Thank you." Feeling dejected, I left. I got to work feeling drained. The absence of Alan disturbed me greater than I would ever admit. I got to my desk, and right in front of me, where Alan's desk was meant to be, was someone else. "Oh, Clara, why are you here?" I asked, dreading the answer she gave. "Alan requested a change of desks, said he didn't like the lighting," she replied as she arranged her items on the desk. "The lighting? Oh, I see," I said and chuckled bitterly. I went through the day on autopilot. My demeanor was noticeable to everyone, and Peter, worried about me, approached me. "Luke, is everything okay with you and Alan?" Why do you ask? Did he say something?" "Well, he came to me and asked to change his desk. It was surprising because I know how close you two were. He was also wearing the same face that you are right now, so I came to find out if anything happened between you two." Sir, I appreciate the concern, but Alan's free to do whatever he wishes. That's his business." "Okay," he nodded, a knowing tone in his voice. "If you say so," he said and left. Work ended and I made my way home. Throughout the day, I didn't run into him at all. It was very obvious he was avoiding me, which was for the best because I wasn't ready to face him yet. And still, I had no idea how I could even approach him or what to say. Slowly but surely, the loneliness I didn't know I had started to creep back in. Alan avoided me at home and work. All my efforts to speak to him, to even say hi, were in vain. He walked past me at work like I wasn't even there, and sometimes changed elevators if I was on it. His actions hurt me, but I found myself stuck in place, unable to do anything about it. Clara stormed over, slamming a stack of files onto my desk like she was staging an intervention. "All right, I've had enough. Watching you and Alan avoid each other is like sitting through the most tragic rom-com ever. It's killing me." I blinked, startled. "I'm not avoiding him, and I have no idea what you're talking about." She crossed her arms, rolling her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. "Oh, spare me. Everyone knows something happened between you two, and neither of you will say anything. It's like watching a bad soap opera on repeat." I hesitated, glancing away. "Wait, you've talked to Alan about this?" "Obviously. He clams up tighter than a jar of pickles. He's stubborn, but guess what? So are you." I groaned, dragging a hand down my face. "All right, fine, I'll tell you, but only because I need advice, and you're the only person I trust not to judge." Clara's smirk practically screamed victory. "Finally, spill." During lunch break, Clara and I met up and I told her what had happened between Alan and me. Seems like you hurt his feelings, she replied. Wow, really? I had no idea, I replied sarcastically. Haha, but really though, you and Alan had this weird chemistry and I'm sure he didn't want to push you since he had no idea why you were so fearful of touch. Perhaps that night you made him think you were ready, but you pulling away and sending him out instead of explaining to him must have hurt him deeply. I accept that I overreacted that night, but he's given me no space to try and apologize. Be honest with me, Luke. Did you really? What? Of course I tried. I tried saying hi to him, but he's been avoiding me like the plague. I don't think you tried hard enough. Here's what I think. The feelings that Alan made you feel were fresh and overwhelming, so you didn't know how to handle it. Now that something has gone wrong, you want to go back to the lonely routine you had, but don't let yourself. You obviously care deeply for him, more than you'd admit, otherwise you'd not be here talking to me. Her words made me pause and think. She was right. I was running away, wanting to go back to the cold embrace of loneliness where I wouldn't have to be vulnerable, or have to be intimate with anyone. Thank you, Clara. I know what I have to do now. Clara's words lingered in my mind, urging me forwards as I stood outside Alan's door. My fist hovered mid-air before I finally knocked. It took a moment, but the door creaked open. Alan stood there, his face unreadable, his tone distant. Luke, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you, I said, my voice steady, even though my chest was tight, and I'm not leaving until you hear me out. His shoulders dropped, and with a resigned sigh, he stepped aside to let me in. Want anything? Water? Juice? He asked, his voice polite but detached. Water, thanks, I replied. He disappeared into the kitchen, returning with a glass. When he handed it to me, our fingers brushed, and I felt it, a spark, faint but undeniable. My breath caught for a second, and I caught him watching me, something flickering in his eyes. Thanks, I murmured, sitting on the edge of the sofa. He sat a short distance away, just enough space to remind me things weren't the same between us. So, he said, breaking the heavy silence, what do you want to talk about? I gripped the glass tightly, forcing the words out before I lost my nerve. I'm sorry, I said, my voice low but firm. His eyebrows rose slightly, but he didn't say anything, so I pressed on. I'm sorry for how I treated you. That night, I hurt you, and you didn't deserve that. You were right. I've been dealing with a lot, and I didn't know how to handle it, but the truth is, I care about you, Alan, more than I can put into words. You make me feel things I didn't think I could ever feel again. My voice cracked, and I looked away, the sting of tears welling up in my eyes. Before I knew it, he was beside me, pulling me into his arms. Hey, he said softly, his voice steady but warm. You don't have to do this alone. Don't cry, okay? I'm here. I pulled back slightly, meeting his gaze. There's something you need to know, I said, my voice trembling, and after I tell you, I'll understand if you never want to see me again. His grip on my shoulders tightened just slightly. Luke, he said gently, just tell me. I'm not going anywhere. So I told him. Everything. I told him about my aunt, about the things she did to me, about the trust she shattered and the pieces of myself I lost because of it. The words split out like a dam breaking, and by the end of it, I was shaking, tears blurring my vision. Alan sat there quietly, tears streaming down his face too. When I finished, he took my face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away my tears. Luke, he said, his voice breaking, I'm so sorry you went through that. You didn't deserve it, and I know how you feel broken, but you don't have to put the pieces back together alone. Let me help you. Let me be here for you. I shook my head, the weight of his words both comforting and overwhelming. I can't ask that of you. Alan, I'm still scared, still so scared of being touched. But you're letting me hold you now, he said softly. You're not asking, I'm offering. I love you, Luke. I've loved you since the day we met, and even if you don't feel the same way, I'm not going anywhere. I stared at him, the sincerity in his eyes hitting me like a wave. For the first time in years, I felt safe. I love you too, I whispered, the words coming out like a breath I didn't know I was holding. But I still have so much healing to do. I know, he said with a small smile, and I'll be here every step of the way. We sat there for a moment, the weight of everything settling between us. Then, slowly, he leaned in, and our lips met in a kiss that was gentle, patient, and full of understanding. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel broken. I felt like I was finally finding the pieces of myself again, with him by my side. The next morning, I called Clara to thank her. Alan and I are together now, I said, a smile tugging at my lips. Wonderful, Luke. I knew you could do it, she replied, her voice brimming with excitement. Thank you, Clara. Your advice meant everything. It was no trouble, Lukey. I'm just glad things worked out. After hanging up, I made another call, this time to Peter. I let him know Alan and I wouldn't be coming in today. He sounded relieved, even happy. Take the time you need, Luke, he said, and I'm glad you two are on good terms again. With that done, I turned to Alan, who was still lounging beside me in bed. So, what now? He asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. There's something I need to do, I said, looking at him. Will you come with me? Of course, he said without hesitation. We got dressed and headed out. Standing in front of the building, I hesitated for just a moment. Alan, ever supportive, reached for my hand. Are you sure about this? He asked gently. I squeezed his hand, drawing strength from his presence. I should have done this a long time ago. Together we walked into the building. As we stepped into the therapist's office to book my first appointment, I felt a weight begin to lift. For the first time in a long time, I felt ready to heal. Looking back, I never thought healing would feel like this. Slow, messy, and terrifyingly vulnerable. Therapy wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And with Alan by my side, I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could move past the shadows of my childhood. We dated for 2 years, slowly building a life together. During that time, I began to open up in ways I never imagined I could. Simple things like holding hands or leaning into his hugs started to feel normal, safe even. But it was on our second anniversary that I realized I was ready to take the biggest step of all. I wanted to show him how much he meant to me. So, I planned everything. Roses, candles, his favorite cake. I even cooked his favorite meal, which, considering my track record in the kitchen, was a miracle in itself. The room looked magical, and when Alan walked in that night, his face lit up in a way I'll never forget. We ate, laughed, and shared dessert, and when he held my hand and led me to the bedroom, my heart felt like it might burst. The room was glowing in the soft light of the candles, but it was nothing compared to the warmth in Alan's eyes as he looked at me. He kissed me gently, and as we lay on the bed, he paused, his gaze searching mine. "Are you sure?" he asked softly, his voice steady but full of care. I smiled, my heart steady for the first time in years. "Yes," I said, my voice unwavering. 100 times yes, I am sure. That night was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Intimate, tender, and filled with a love that didn't just heal me, but reminded me that I deserved this happiness. When it was over, we lay tangled together, his arms around me like a promise. I turned to him, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so happy I met you." Alan's lips curved into that familiar soft smile as he pulled me closer. "As am I," he replied. For the first time since I started therapy, I felt whole, completely and utterly healed. If you're carrying pain, you're not alone. Healing takes time, but it's possible. There are people who will walk this path with you, who will listen, who will care. You deserve to be happy. Have you overcome any fears like Luke? Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.